What is up, you guys? It is your host Willie back here on Footy Talks, and we're here with another video here on the channel today. And I do just want to go ahead and go over the UCL Round of 16 second leg matches. These next 8 matches are to come tomorrow and Wednesday. There are going to be the matches that are going to determine the last 8 in this year's UCL quarterfinals, or the last 8 in this year's UCL. And there is definitely a lot to unpack for sure, a lot of exciting encounters to come as well. So what we're going to go ahead and do, we're just going to go ahead and go over each match one by one, kind of go ahead and give a little preview, and I'm going to go ahead and give you my own prediction of each match, of what we could possibly expect. And go ahead and leave down in the comments below, what you guys predict for each match. I would love to hear what you guys think of each match, or a certain match that you're keeping an eye on. It would be really great to be able to engage with all of you guys. But without further ado, let's go ahead and look into this very first match, which is Barcelona versus Benfica. So going into this match of Barcelona versus Benfica, Barcelona, of course, they did come away from Benfica with that very huge win of 1-0, so Barcelona are leading on aggregate by 1 goal only. However, during the preparation, in between that last match to this match, Barcelona, unfortunately, they have been going through a really hard time as a club, since unfortunately they did suffer, a loss in their first team medical staff. A doctor by the name of Carles Miñaro. He did unfortunately pass away on Saturday, just before Barcelona's clash versus Osasuna. That game was therefore postponed due to this tragic incident. Carles Miñaro, he was a first team doctor. He was only 53 years old. That he suddenly passed away out of nowhere. It really is a loss that has been felt, right the way through the club, from the players, the staff, and of course, his friends and loved ones, of course. Deep condolences to Carles Miñaro's family and, people that were close to him. I know that's, something that's definitely not easy to go through, to lose someone close to you. I mean, when I saw the news myself, I was actually, at a loss for words. I didn't even know how to react to it. Even right now, just, bringing you guys the news, I still don't know how to, put it into words or how to react to it. But it is just such a tragic loss, ahead of, really important times for Barcelona. And he was one of the key figures, too, in, helping these Barcelona players stay fit throughout the season. As, Hansi Flick, you guys know, he has a really intense, style of play whenever it comes to his teams. So Carles Miñaro, he was most definitely, a crucial part in, helping the players stay fit. But not only that, he was also he'll also be missed as a great person. So rest in peace, Carles Miñaro, and, deep condolences to any friends, loved ones, or people that were close to Carles Miñaro. So Barcelona versus Benfica, I do think that is going to be a really intense match. Of course, Benfica, they're going to be coming to Barcelona's home stadium with the hopes of, knocking Barcelona out of the UCL round of 16 and going into the quarterfinals. I honestly don't see that happening. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to, undermine Benfica in any way or anything like that. But I just think that after Hansi Flick's press conference of saying that the players are fully focused on, this match and, really uplifting, the club spirits after this tough loss, I really do think that Barcelona, especially with the home advantage, the, fans behind them and everything, I really do think that Barcelona is going to be really focused, and they're going to go ahead and, get a good result against Benfica, knocking them out of the round of 16. I mean, I really do think that this game is going to be significant. And I'm going to go for a scoreline of Barcelona 3, Benfica 0, which is pretty bold. It's probably the first, controversial prediction that I'm making, especially considering how well Benfica did play in the last match. But I just think that Barcelona, they're going to be fully focused and, locked into this match to try to honor the memory of Carles Miñaro. But not only that, to also be able to get to the UCL quarterfinals. It seems like, Barcelona has worked pretty hard to get to where they're at right now in this season, competing for all trophies. And also, to not let any work go unnoticed. I do think that Barcelona, do have a lot of potential in this competition. So I think they're going to go ahead and go through with a 3-0 win. And now, moving on to the next match we have right here. It's going to be Liverpool versus PSG. Now, Liverpool versus PSG is most definitely going to be one of those most anticipated matches in this UCL Round of 16 for sure, as if it wasn't already, but even more after that first leg match that we saw. I mean, if we look at the stats of, PSG versus Liverpool, PSG, they did completely dominate Liverpool in that first leg. It was only after, a late-minute winner from Harvey Elliott that won Liverpool the match. But in all reality, Liverpool, they really didn't create much chances, and the result really does flatter them. It was against the run of play. PSG, they did create a lot of chances. They did have the more possession, but they just weren't able to find a way to score. And unfortunately, I do feel like that's gonna go ahead and come back to bite them. Now, this second match right here, it is gonna be played at Anfield, and as we all know, Anfield could be a pretty hostile stadium. But I also do think that Liverpool, they would have learned their lesson from their first leg match with PSG to have a little bit more control in the match as opposed to, letting themselves be dominated by PSG. So I do think that Liverpool will go ahead and, get more of a hold on the game, more of a hold on the ball, as opposed to the first leg. But I still do think that PSG do pose a threat. You have the likes of Ousmane Dembele, Kvaratskhelia, excuse me if I pronounce the name wrong, Barcola. PSG is just all around, they do have a lot of threats going forward, so Liverpool, they just have to be very wary of that. But same thing for, PSG. PSG, they're going to have to go ahead and push forward to try to find that equalizer, that winner, as they are one goal down. And who knows, Liverpool, with the likes of Mohamed Salah and Luis Diaz, they could probably hit them on the counter attack. We didn't see that exactly play out in the first leg at the Parc des Princes, but I do think that Liverpool, they'll be more of themselves, because Liverpool throughout this whole season, aside from Barcelona, they have been considered one of the best teams in Europe so far in this season. And I just think, maybe Liverpool will still find a way to be able to win this tie. It's not saying that PSG, doesn't have a chance at all. It's just that I do think that, Liverpool, they'll find a way to make it through. My prediction on this match, it may have to go in favor of Liverpool. So I do think that Liverpool will go ahead and win this match 2-1, which does seem harsh on PSG. It does seem harsh on PSG, but I just think that Liverpool will go ahead and find a way through against PSG. But I wouldn't be surprised if the game does end up being tighter, or who knows, I'll probably be a little bit surprised if PSG win, but we'll just have to go ahead and see, one goal in soccer, as we know, it's really not that much of a margin. So anything could happen still. Anything could happen. So that's most definitely going to be a match to keep an eye on. Now, the next match that we have right here, it's going to be Bayer Leverkusen versus Bayern. So Leverkusen is going to be hosting Bayern Munich at their home stadium. After a really tough 3-0 defeat away from home at the Allianz Arena, it is going to be a really huge task for Leverkusen to come back, to be honest. Especially after it looks like there's news that Florian Wirtz, one of the star players in this Bayern Leverkusen side under Xabi Alonso, he's going to be out for this match due to injury. And then, of course, we also have the suspension of Nordi Mukiele, as Leverkusen did get a red card in that match away from home against Bayern Munich. And honestly, yeah, Leverkusen is just going to have to find a miracle to be able to come back. I mean, if somehow, some way they do find a way to come back against this pretty strong Bayern Munich side, they would be the 5th team in the UCL history to come back from a 3-goal deficit. But in all honesty, it looks like it is going to be a huge mountain to climb. And, Bayern, they have been shaky at times at defense. They have lost 2 times in this year's UCL, 3-0. So that is something worth considering. But then again, they do have a lot going forward with the likes of, Harry Kane, Musiala, and all these other forwards that they do have. I mean, I can't name them off the top of my head, but Bayern Munich, they most definitely do have a lot of firepower going forward. So for this match, in all honesty, I do see this match going in favor of Bayern Munich. I think that Bayern Munich, they'll go ahead and win this match by 2-1, which would then, put them through the last 8 as well. Now the next match that we have right here to show, it would be Inter Milan versus Feyenoord. So Inter Milan, they'll be hosting Feyenoord at home at the San Siro Stadium after a 2-0 win in the first leg match. Now, I do think Feyenoord, they're going to have a really difficult time, coming back from that 2-0 deficit. They haven't gotten a win against an Italian side in the UCL away from home in the last 8 matches. And against a really strong Inter team, an Inter team that has only conceded 1 goal in this whole UCL. So in the last 9 matches, Inter has only conceded 1 goal in this UCL. I do think that's going to be really hard for Feyenoord to score, 3 or more without Inter scoring anything at all. I mean, Inter are a pretty dangerous side with that 3-5-2 that, they're very well known for under Simone Inzaghi. And then aside from that, it looks like there is news that Feyenoord striker Igor Paixão, he was playing in the first leg against Inter. He did suffer an injury, so that must be a pretty huge blow for Feyenoord coming into this match. And my prediction for this one right here, I do see Inter going through. I think for this match, Inter, they'll go ahead and win, by 3-0 against Feyenoord, maybe 3-1. And that is going to be my prediction for this match right here, Inter going through against Feyenoord. Now, the matches are to come on Wednesday. There are going to be the next 4 matches right here. The first 4 matches I listed, they're going to be the matches for tomorrow, which is, really exciting and something to look forward to for sure. And these next 4 matches, they're going to be the matches that are for Wednesday. The next match that we're going to be looking at is going to be Lille versus Borussia Dortmund. Now, Lille, they'll be hosting Dortmund at their home stadium in France. Coming away from Dortmund's home with a 1-1 draw. And honestly, I could see this match going either way. So it kind of is hard to make a prediction on this one since I don't know both teams too well. But, based off the stats, it looks like Lille, they were a bit more dominant when it came to that first leg match in terms of possession stats and shots on goal. But Dortmund, then again, they're a pretty decent team whenever it comes to Europe. I mean, we got to keep in mind that Dortmund, they are last year's UCL finalists, runner-ups. But also Lille, they did happen to be, the likes of Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid in this year's UCL. They've even gotten some decent results against, pretty decent teams in the likes of Juventus and Monaco. So I do definitely see this match going, either way. And this one may be controversial too. So, just leave down in the comments below what you guys would think this one would be. But I think Lille, they'll find a way through. I think Lille will find a way through against Borussia Dortmund, being one of, being an upset in this year's UCL Round of 16. So I think the score would probably end up being 2 goals for Lille and 1 goal for Dortmund. So my prediction on this one will be Lille going through to the last 8. Now the next match that we're going to be looking at right here is going to be Aston Villa versus Club Brugge. Aston Villa hosting Bruges at their home stadium after a very crucial win against them away from home. Scoring 3 goals against them and Bruges scoring 1 against Villa. So Aston Villa, they do hold a 2-goal advantage. And if they were to win this match, they would be the 9th English team in UCL history to be able to go to the quarterfinals. Right now, English sides are level with Spanish sides in terms of teams that have gone through to the quarterfinals. So that is something that is going to be a pretty huge milestone, not only for Aston Villa, but for English clubs as well. And Bruges, they've never won against an English side away from home in a major European competition. Bruges would have to be one of the 8 teams in UCL history to come back from a 2-goal deficit after losing in the first leg. So honestly, Club Brugge, they do have, a pretty big mountain to climb with Villa holding an advantage 2-0, playing them away, at Villa's home. However, it looks like that there are some doubts within Villa's lineup and, squad as a whole. And there's some pretty crucial misses, not gonna lie. So we have Emi Martinez, which, Dibu, World Cup winner. He is in doubt to possibly miss this match. Marco Asensio, their new signing from PSG forward. And then right here we do have Amadou Onana. He's an Aston Villa midfielder, which I don't think he was playing in the first leg match. So, that's not too much of a miss. But more than anything, to be missing, Emi Martinez, that is a pretty big blow if he is in doubt and doesn't happen to play this match. But despite all that, I still do see Aston Villa going through. Now, for this match, I would have to say the score would probably end 2-1 in favor of Aston Villa. So at the end of it all, I do have Aston Villa going through by scoring 2-1. So it'd be 2-1 at the end of this match right here. So Aston Villa would end up going through. Now the next match that we're gonna go ahead and be going over is gonna be Arsenal versus PSV. Now, guys, right here, I do think PSV, they do have a pretty good chance of making a comeback versus Arsenal. I think PSV, they'll end up making it to the quarterfinals against Arsenal. They did play a really good match versus Arsenal. And I do think that they're going to go ahead and, be going through against Arsenal for sure. Most definitely. 100%. So, I have PSV going through on this match against Arsenal. I'm so sorry, PSV fans. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry, PSV fans, but if you guys didn't see the score, Arsenal or PSV versus Arsenal, Arsenal coming away with a huge win away from home against PSV. It is one of the biggest away wins in UCL knockout stage history. Arsenal winning PSV 7-1, and now Arsenal is going to be hosting PSV at their home stadium. Yeah. No team in the UCL history has ever come back from a 6-goal deficit. The closest that has ever come to that is a 4-goal deficit only, but 6-goal deficit, that's just way too much to ask for, especially against a really strong team in Arsenal. They do have a pretty solid back line, a pretty solid midfielder, and despite all the injuries with the likes of Kai Havertz, Gabriel Jesus, Bukayo Saka missing, Arsenal on that day in the first match, they just found a way to be lethal. I mean, they put away 7 goals against PSV, which is pretty crazy. And when it comes to this second match, in all seriousness, I do see Arsenal without a doubt going through. I mean, I don't think Arsenal they'll give away this lead. If anything, I think they'll go ahead and extend it further. So Arsenal fans, they could be pretty happy, pretty sure of their team that they're going to go through most definitely. So my prediction for this match, I do think Arsenal is going to score 3 goals. PSV is going to stay at 0. And PSV fans, sorry that you guys have to go through this. It is a pretty tough loss to, go through. But, yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you guys think PSV could come back. Let me know if you think they could come back. Oh, man. That's brutal. 7-1. Jesus. Okay. Now, the last match that we're going to go ahead and go over, it is, one of the most anticipated matches. And, of course, it has been one of the most anticipated matches in, this round of 16. It's going to be the Madrid derby. Atletico Madrid versus Real Madrid. Now, Atletico Madrid, they'll go ahead and be hosting Real Madrid at home after suffering a 2-1 defeat to Madrid at the Santiago Bernabeu. I do think that Atletico Madrid are still in this game. They're only 1 goal behind. But I do think that they do have a lot of work to do if they are going to find a way through against, Real Madrid. Because, whenever it comes to Madrid and the UCL, they just have this aura. Especially, whenever it's come to Atletico Madrid and the UCL. Madrid, man, they just always find a way against Atletico Madrid. Breaking Atletico Madrid fans' hearts. In 2 UCL finals, I think there was a knockout stage match where, they faced each other and Real Madrid knocked them out again. Atletico, they have a lot to do. They have a lot to do if they do want to, find a place in the last day of this year's UCL. But, Atletico, they've come back, on a couple of occasions after they've lost the first leg match. They've come back against teams, like Leverkusen back in 2014-15, that strong Barcelona team with, MSN back in 2015-16. And even last year, they did come back against Inter Milan, in the UCL knockout stages. So Atletico, they're definitely not no pushovers. They do have a good squad. So Madrid do have to be wary of that. But then vice versa, Atletico has to be wary of, the threat that Madrid carries. Madrid, as a team, they haven't been clicking great. But it's just, the individual quality that they have on their team with the likes of, Bellingham. He's going to be back in, this team after the suspension he had. Mbappe, Vini, Rodrigo, and so forth. I mean, you can name almost pretty much the whole Madrid squad, but they're all pretty much quality. And then Madrid, they have, won 9 out of the 9, UCL matches, or ties, should I say, that they've won the first leg in. So, Madrid, if they win the first leg, it's more than likely that they won the tie as a whole. But you never know. Football's unpredictable like that. Soccer's unpredictable like that. So we're going to have to go ahead and see. And, I mean, the last time that Atletico has lost a UCL knockout match in their home stadium, it dates back all the way to March 1997. So, this is most definitely going to be another match to keep an eye on. I do think it's going to be a really tight game, but with Madrid being Madrid and the UCL and, their pedigree against Atletico in the UCL, I do think that they're going to find a way to just scrape through, against Atletico. My prediction for this one, I do think that Madrid and Atletico, the score is going to be 2-2. They're going to tie in this match. But I think Madrid, Real Madrid is going to go ahead and, go through on the aggregate score. So 2-2, Madrid won the last game 2-1. So on aggregate, it'd be 4-3. I think Real Madrid will go through on the aggregate score. So yeah, that we're going to have to see. Alrighty guys, with all of those predictions made, I do have my final 8 right here for this year's UCL quarterfinals. On one side of the bracket, for me, on the last day, we're going to have Liverpool versus Aston Villa. I do think that is going to be one of the matches in this year's UCL quarterfinal. Real Madrid versus Arsenal, which is, going to be a really enticing match to keep an eye out for. Barcelona versus Lille, which, I as a Barca fan, I'm going to be keeping an eye on that one if it does happen. Hopefully it does. Hopefully that Barca goes through. Doesn't matter if it's against Dortmund or Lille, but hopefully Barca goes through. And then Bayern Munich versus Inter Milan, which, it would be one of the, more intriguing matches if, the results I predicted were to go that way. But, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. What you guys thought of my predictions. Let me know what matches you're going to be keeping an eye on, or who you think is going to go through in this year's last day at the UCL quarterfinals. I would really love to hear, all of your guys' comments down below. If you guys like this video, go ahead and leave me a like. Again, comment any of your thoughts down below. Subscribe and share this video. I really do appreciate you guys for tuning in. It really does mean a lot to me and to my channel. This was Willie, your host on Footy Talks. And that was it for today's video. Peace out.